In Udun, the brutal 6th episode of Prime Video's The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power, the stakes are truly life and death. Beware, spoilers ahead. With the bloodthirsty Waldreg in the front row, Adar stands before a sea of flames with hundreds of orcs holding torches aloft in the darkness. Before this night is through, some of us will fall. For the first time, we do so not as unnamed slaves in faraway lands, but as brothers and sisters in our home. Adar is leading the orcs as they advance toward the elven stronghold to the beat of war drums and guttural growls. But the courtyard is deserted as they pry open the doors. Adar glares at Sauron's skeletal face and the carving on the sword's hilt as the orcs search the citadel. Waldreg grovels before his lord father, asking, "What happened to Sauron?" As steely as the carving behind him, Adar turns. Before he can respond, however, Arondir appears from behind a parapet and fires arrows into the orcs below as well as into the rope holding the scaffolding of the tower together. With cat-like agility, he leaps down to the bridge and then runs off. As the ropes shatter, scaffolding beams fly from the tower. The tower finally collapses in on itself as Waldreg begs an immobile Adar to move, appearing to imprison Adar and his army beneath its crushing, burning weight. The Southlanders applaud from the valley below, but Bronwyn knows the battle is not over. They have to make ready the village. It won't be the last time that their festivities are cut short. Numenor's ships sail the night on the sundering seas. Isildur gets up to tidy the stables and give his horse friend Beric an apple while Halbrand is still sleeping. He wanders up to the deck, where the armored Galadriel, also known as Commander to Isildur, spots him. She reminds him, humility has saved entire kingdoms that the proud have all but led to ruin, as he humbly confesses that his position is stable sweep. Elendil gives Miriel an update meanwhile. A day is spent sailing up the river, followed by a day spent traveling to the Southlands. She desires to go quickly. Back in Southlands, Arondir conceals the indestructible hilt while the locals mine their house. Following a motivational speech from Arondir, Bronwyn directs the fighters to take up positions while Theo enters the barricaded tavern to guard the people within who are unable to fight. Theo has struggled with the impact of the hilt and his mother's protection. He is now a scared youngster who simply wants his mother to reassure him that everything will be fine. While the villagers cradle their kids, loved ones, and each other, she tries to say, in the end, this shadow is but a small and passing thing. Find the light, and the shadow will not find you. Before they say goodbye, she hugs and kisses her own child. Before the storm, Arondir and Bronwyn share a moment. He puts into her palm 2 Alfiren seeds she gave him. It is a tradition among the elves. Before a battle begins, plant one, Arondir instructs her. However, she is aware that new life, in defiance of death. Arondir puts her hand on a tree and holds it tenderly. He murmurs, "The rest we shall plant after the battle is over in a new garden. You and I and Theo. Together." But this duo has never been particularly good with words. Arondir's only response to Bronwyn's request for his promise is to kiss her. Night. Wind. Silence. Then Arondir notices it, fire sputtering over the hill. The battle starts when the last orcs cross the bridge. Burning carts ram into the orcs' lines as rooftop archers pelt them with arrows. Pikes in hand, villagers rush towards the battle. Even when Arondir plunges a dagger right into the giant orc's face, he still manages to grab Arondir by the throat. Blood flows out of the destroyed socket as Arondir pulls at the dagger that is still lodged in the orc's eye. Eye for an eye, the orc turns the blade toward Arondir. But before he has a chance to process it, Bronwyn stabs the orc. They come back to the sound of the villagers' triumphant cheers. However, when Arondir examines the bodies, he notices an unusual sight, red blood collecting beneath a dead orc's helmet. He succeeds in doing so, revealing a man instead of an orc. The peasants unveil their neighbors, acquaintances, and fellow refugees as they take off their animal skull and chainmail masks one at a time. The sweat-drenched Southlanders are spattered as they comprehend what this implies as fires dance on rivulets of blood, black and red alike. Arrows shoot out of the trees abruptly, hitting Southlanders left and right, including Bronwyn. Her blood pours red through the table's planks as Arondir drags her to the tavern for momentary protection. With the same seeds and a smoldering piece of wood, Theo and Aronder tend to her wounds. But Bronwyn collapses silently and mutely. They stood staring at her lifeless face for a very, very long time. She finally moves. Aronder is holding Bronwyn's face as Theo encircles him with an arm. He, Theo, and they both. Together. The settlement has been besieged by orcs outside the tavern, and an evidently unharmed Adar makes his way there through the flames. He begs Aronder for the hilt, but Aronder will only grant his request if the peasants are allowed to leave. An orc guts one in response. Another follows. Another follows. Adar looks at Bronwyn. As a blade arcs toward Bronwyn's neck, Aronder still refuses to crack, but Theo does. As Adar catches sight of what he has been looking for, thunder rumbles. When he exits the pub with the job for Waldreg and the hilt, he discovers that the sound he heard was not thunder but rather the cavalry of Numenor. With chains, swords, spears, and hooves, they slaughter orcs. Galadriel hangs sideways off her horse to evade an arrow and snare the arrow shooter as Theo and Aronder square battle on their feet. Gold-plated Miriel watches from the hills with a restless stable sweep by her side. But not for long, for Isildur rushes into battle after getting her approval. Galadriel spots Aronder in the midst of the commotion. "Soldier," she calls out, "where is their commander?" He gives a nod to Adar, who is riding a Numenoran horse and trying to escape. Aronder and Theo watch in awe as Galadriel flees in pursuit. Adar is being pursued by Galadriel through the woods since it seemed too simple for him to leave his kids. Halbrand shows up just as she comes up, trips Adar's horse, and skewers his grabbing, gloveless hand with a spear. "You remember me?" Halbrand queries. Adar disagrees. "Did I cause someone you love pain?" Adar mutters while mockingly grinning. Galadriel spits, "Eat your tongue." She needs Adar alive, thus she wants Halbrand to put the spear down. The captured orcs are bound and being cleaned up by Numenorans, whose white-scaled armor has been stained with black blood. Isildur and Valandil have secured positions in Galadriel's organization to track down freed orcs. Antamo, a sweet summertime child, will stick behind to aid the people because he has witnessed enough conflict throughout his entire sweet summer life. In the meantime, Galadriel questions Adar. According to what she had been told, Morgoth tortured elves to create the Sons of the Dark, the first orcs. Adar just has one message: Uruk. "We prefer Uruk." She looks for Sauron, his lord. Adar asserts that Sauron dedicated himself to restoring Middle-earth once Morgoth was vanquished. Flashes of the orcish skeletons scattered throughout the snowy fortress. "For my part, I sacrificed enough of my children for his aspirations. I split him open. I killed Sauron." Galadriel doesn't buy it, and she isn't affected by his paternal concern either. With her silver armor shining in the light as she kneels before him, she makes a deadly calm promise to slay all orcs. "Before I drive my dagger into your poisoned heart, I will whisper in your piked ear that all your offspring are dead and the scourge of your kind ends with you." Adar is unconcerned. He mocks, "Perhaps your search for Morgoth's successor should have ended in your own mirror." Only Halbrand's presence prevents Galadriel from killing him, leaving a small ribbon of blood on his throat. When Adar inquires about Halbrand, he makes no response. Who exactly is he? By the sun-dappled stream, Galadriel and Halbrand enjoy a romantic moment, as intimate as each of them is able to make it. It felt natural to them both to fight together. When the people return to town, they properly celebrate, with pipes and drums enhancing an outdoor feast and the clinking of beer mugs. A thankful Bronwyn is led by Aronder to the kind Miriel, who introduces her to Lord Halbrand. She instantly leads a shout to the true king of the Southlands after spotting his winged crest. Halbrand beams a smile, as if his load has been lifted. Theo is sitting by himself, feeling guilty in the loss of the power the hilt had given him. Aronder notices this. Aronder trusts Theo because they are a family now and gives him the wrapped hilt for the Numenorans to throw into the sea so he can escape its grip. However, Theo doesn't like how heavy it feels in his hands. He removes the cloth to reveal a straightforward axe. Waldreg, a genuine dirtbag, is standing behind the crumbling watchtower at that same time, holding the missing hilt in one hand, staring up at the carving of Sauron's visage. After all, Adar had a task for him and used Waldreg as a pawn to enable him to complete it. The blade is being reforged from the blood of Waldreg's arm by the hilt, which is drawing black smoke into itself. He inserts the modified blade into the stone, where it twists and slips in like glass. The river explodes, pouring over bridges and hurtling down the mountain as the stones all around him start to rumble. The instant Isildur and Elendil finally come to terms in the valley, geysers erupt all across the town as the orcs cry, Udun. The water rushes through the unfinished tunnels below them. They served as a path for a new river that flowed to a lush mountain rising into the sky, not just a route to smuggle people from one town to the next. A new river of fire and smoke powers out of the mountaintop as a result of the waters spilling into a cavern of angry red lava in the mountain's belly. The all-too-short jubilation explodes in blasts of crimson and black as fireballs arc through the air and crash through the settlement. Elendil rushes to find the queen, Isildur summons Beric, and Antamo darts through the haze. One figure, though, stays still. Galadriel is currently positioned amidst the flames and devastation, watching as a wave of black and billowing smoke, shot through with blood red, crawls down the mountain and across the grass. This is similar to how Adar stood and watched the tower collapse. The clouds parted as her boat approached Valinor, and the sun blinded her. The sun is now obscured by smoky clouds. She now remains motionless. They currently swallow her. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to see more videos like this. Click like and turn on notifications to help out the channel.